Hey everyone. Yeah, it's not just those in the established media or the established political parties that are now focusing their attention on attacking anyone that's challenging the status quo or looking to change how this country is governed. You also got to keep in mind that you have Canada's security establishment as well as the RCMP who are now focusing their attention on political activists as well. Freedom of speech, freedom of association, and your freedom to assemble or protest against an overreaching or an overly authoritarian state or political party is now become something that is no longer acceptable and is now being dealt with the heavy-handed tactics of not just intimidation, but now invading on people's privacies or scouring through their backgrounds or social media posts as a means to find something to use against them. Headline out of CBC News, Politics. Mountie broke the law when he investigated protesters' background, says Watchdog report. Protester held up a sign at a municipal meeting that read, Pinko Commie. It's been reported by Catherine Tunney, June 9th, 2019. And with a sign saying Pinko Commie, he can rest assured that this person, this individual, was someone that probably came predominantly from the right side of the political aisle. You don't see or hear much about anyone within law enforcement or the ruling establishment going after those who would be considered left-leaning activists or protesters. No, they seem to magically get a free pass. The focus seems to be squarely and solely on anyone that comes from the right politically, which tells you a whole lot about who's truly in charge of this country. A British Columbia Mountie broke the law when he started snooping into a protester's background and leaked information to municipal officials. But it took an outside investigation to convince RCMP brass to see it that way. No kidding. Of course the RCMP, yeah, we investigated our own and we found that nobody did anything wrong. And that's not just the RCMP. That can be said about pretty much every law enforcement or police agency these days in Western societies. It seems to always come down to protecting their own and denying the public or the people who are forced to employ them the ability to hold these people to account. The incident dates back to the fall of 2015 when a complaint came forward alleging that an officer accessed police databases and disclosed background information to senior municipal officials after a rowdy council meeting, according to a report by the RCMP's independent watchdog obtained through Access to Information Law. The Civilian Review and Complaints Commission report is heavily redacted. It doesn't even disclose the name of the municipality. However, it describes how the RCMP got involved after the person who filed the complaint with the CRCC, a boisterous protester, held up a sign at a municipal meeting that read, Pinko Commie. Oh, how dare you! Why would this RCMP officer be investigating someone for holding up a sign that says Pinko Commie? That says a lot about the kind of cops who comprise the RCMP these days, doesn't it? The report says the municipality was concerned about the protester escalating his efforts. According to emails obtained by the commission, RCMP Inspector Al O'Donnell used Prime, an electronic record management system used by police in British Columbia, and other databases to find out if the protester had any past run-ins with police. Right? Running them through the checks for doing nothing more than holding up a sign. Like this is the country we are now living in, folks. Is you're going to be targeted if you dare to challenge the establishment or the status quo. And like I say, it's not just come from the media class or the political class, it's also coming from their mindless enforcers as well, and their counterparts in the spy agencies. Don't forget about that. The protesters' record was clean, according to the report. The RCMP relayed that news to the municipality. The RCMP investigated the protesters' original complaint and found its members acted reasonably according to a report from the force's independent watchdog. They defended the background search, saying it was conducted in the public's interest. The CRCC disagreed. The commission found that Inspector O'Donnell did unreasonably disclose redacted personal information contrary to law and policy, says their final report. Superintendent Mark Fisher unreasonably authorized the disclosure. The Privacy Act prohibits the disclosure of personal information by government institutions except in limited circumstances. The CRCC ruled that telling the municipal government about the protesters' background violated the law, even though the RCMP found no records of past official contact with police. There is no suggestion that Redacted had breached municipal bylaw. The record merely demonstrates that Redacted held up signs critical of municipal council, says the report. Late last year, RCMP Commissioner Brenda Luck sent a letter to the Commission agreeing with their findings and recommendations. The RCMP says all detachment members were informed of the restrictions on the disclosure of personal information under RCMP E-Division policy and the Privacy Act. Following the Commission's recommendation, the RCMP says the new officer in charge of the BC detachment makes sure all employees comply with the Privacy Act and internal policies regarding personal information. The Commission's other recommendation was completely redacted. The RCMP says O'Donnell has retired and Fisher has taken another posting. Neither could be reached for comment. So I'll post a link to this obviously in the description of the video below. But hey, once again, folks, not only two things you need to take away from this. Not only are the people that are the mindless enforcers of the state now doing this kind of stuff, but you also have to recognize that yes, you have the ability to hold these people to account, or at least attempt to do so. Because yeah, the things that they're doing, and even being suggested in this article, is illegal. It goes against Canada's privacy laws. That's where personal responsibility steps into the equation. And if something is happening to you, such as a situation like this gentleman is dealing with, is yes, you have to make it a point to not just file or lodge a complaint, but to follow through with it and make sure that these people that are committing these illegal acts are being held to account, and the message is being sent to not infringe on the rights, freedoms, or privacy laws that are meant to protect each and every one of us as Canadian citizens. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.